They're some of the most highly evolved snakes on the planet, armed with some of nature's most cutting-edge tools. Heat-detecting sensors, the longest fangs in the reptile world, venom delivered by a surgically precise strike. Vipers are beautiful and deadly. They contribute to over 100,000 human deaths a year. But now, there are signs that some may be evolving into even deadlier forms, with a little accidental help from us. Snakes and humans have often had a complicated relationship. In some parts of the world, they're revered for their strength and wisdom. In other parts, the serpent's role as the villain in the Garden of Eden story has made it a much less popular creature. Snakes have the power to fascinate and repel us simultaneously. Maybe it's the way they move, or the lidless eyes, the flickering tongue. There's something mysterious about vipers, so maybe it's not surprising to learn that it's still a mystery exactly how this extraordinary animal came into being some 20 million years ago, long after the dinosaurs had gone extinct. While some scientists believe snakes evolved from water creatures, there is also compelling evidence to suggest that the snake's closest ancestor was a reptile similar to a monitor lizard, with legs and feet. According to this theory, these ancestors lived underground, and natural selection favored those with the smallest limbs for easier burrowing. Eventually, the legs and feet were eliminated altogether, while additional vertebrae were added, lots of them. A monitor lizard has about 29 vertebrae in its body, plus those in the tail. A viper can have more than 200. This length and flexibility allows the viper to navigate in a variety of environments. On the ground, in the water, dangling from trees, and when tracking a meal. But despite their common ancestry with other snakes, vipers have developed quite differently. Instead of crushing their prey like constrictors, they use one of nature's strongest toxins, delivered through the longest fangs of any snake. They can track a meal in complete darkness, have blindingly fast striking power, and a uniquely designed skull to devour prey bigger than themselves. Across the globe, vipers like Africa's puff adder and Asia's Russell's viper are probably responsible for most of the snakebite deaths around the world. Around 100,000 men, women, and children annually. And as man encroaches on the serpent's world, that number rises every year. Vipers live on nearly every continent and in nearly every climate, from the Arctic Circle to the Amazon. There are more than 200 viper species, some more dangerous to man than others. Northern Florida is home to the biggest North American viper, the eastern diamondback rattlesnake. It can grow up to 8 feet in length. Although it is one of the most feared venomous snakes in the Western Hemisphere, it is, in fact, an easygoing creature, unless it's provoked. Herpetologist Bruce Means is studying rattlesnake mating habits, and he's looking for a female rattlesnake to feed a transmitter to, so he can track her movements.
Oh, there you are, you beautiful little creature. Now, let's see here.
Even for an experienced snake handler, approaching a viper in the wild always requires extreme caution, as Bruce Means knows all too well.
I had hoped to be the one herpetologist who in his career had never been bitten by a venomous snake. Well, unfortunately, working with venomous snakes is a risky profession.
Found out just how risky it was on November 22, 1993, when he was conducting an ecological survey on Shell Island in the Florida Panhandle. The setting couldn't have been more idyllic.
I really was euphoric, thinking what a wonderful day this was. Not ever expecting that I was going to encounter an eastern diamondback rattlesnake. Well, I wanted a photograph. The light was right, and I had my camera with me. I took several photographs of the snake. You know, at that point, that should have been sufficient. And I'll never know why I decided I had to pick the snake up.
Oh, nice snake. Hello.
Bruce found a stick to pin the snake's head. What he didn't realize was the stick's too short.
Hey, baby.
He's dealing with a snake that doesn't want to be examined and won't hesitate to voice its displeasure if it senses an opening. And it does.
At first, the pain was nothing more than a pinprick.
But the moment the venom enters Bruce's bloodstream, it begins attacking his tissues and cells, setting off a chain reaction that could paralyze his entire system.
I began feeling symptoms right away with this snake. I felt tingling on the tops of both of my hands. I wanted to just panic. I mean, I already knew how dangerous it was to be envenomated. And here I was on an island a long way away from any help. I had a long walk to go to get to the kayak, and then I had an even longer passage to make across the bay.
The viper's venom design is so efficient that it uses its prey's own circulatory system to kill it. The faster the heart pumps, the faster you die. A fact Bruce is well aware of as he starts the long walk back to the kayak.
I really was on the verge of wanting to go bonkers, and I don't know what would have happened if I'd let my panic take over.
Viper venom is one of the most lethal organic compounds in nature. It evolved from enzymes and proteins originally found in the digestive tract and other parts of the body. Over time, these became a highly modified form of saliva. It not only kills prey, but also starts to pre-digest it from the inside out. Viper venom is the most complex of any snake toxin. It primarily works by attacking the victim's circulatory system and tissues, causing massive shock. Within minutes, an animal bitten will experience a loss of blood pressure as cells and tissues begin to be destroyed. This rare microscopic look illustrates what is actually happening when viper venom attacks healthy cells. The cytotoxic venom infuses the bloodstream. Cells rupture. Tissues dissolve. The animal hemorrhages to death. Viper venom can also contain neurotoxic compounds, which paralyze the nervous system. And that is what's happening to Bruce. Knowing the clock is ticking, Bruce begins a frantic race to get back to civilization. He'll have to manage the half-mile walk to the kayak, and then almost a mile paddle to get to the mainland.
And as I was going, I was thinking to myself, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it.
It's been nearly 20 minutes since the bite. And Bruce knows a viper's venom can kill a man in as little as an hour.
So I said, you've got to not panic. Don't think about how long a paddle it will be to get to shore. Don't think about you're all alone. Don't think about you could die.
A tiny bite on the finger, a few drops of rattlesnake venom in the blood. That's all it took to partially paralyze Bruce Means. As he struggles to get to the mainland, the venom blocks the nerve impulses to his lower limbs.
I was totally paralyzed from the leg down. You're trying to keep as low as you can, and you inch yourself along the ground. You know, you're wiggling your body back and forth and pulling with your arms.
Bruce is lucky to have been bitten in the United States, where less than a dozen people die of snake bites every year, out of thousands who are bitten. So, statistically speaking, Bruce's chances of survival are good, if he can reach a hospital. In other parts of the world, getting bitten by a viper is almost like a death sentence. Take Africa. On a continent where wildlife roams free, predators lurk everywhere. And a particularly dangerous one can be found here, hidden in the tall grass. One that makes itself known by an unmistakable hiss. The puff adder is responsible for more human deaths than any other African viper. Usually about 4 feet long, this thick-bodied serpent is a quick and efficient killer. The exact number of puff adder fatalities is unknown. Many bites occur deep in the bush, far from help. And it's possible that many victims are never found. With venom this strong, the puff adder is an ideal subject for studying how vipers can kill animals dozens of times their own size. South African herpetologist Andrew Jackson captures puff adders in the wild to learn more about their venom.
Puff adders are called puff adders because they make a lot of noise. Before you get too close to them, they generally give you a bit of a warning. No, oh, there he is. There he is. There we go. Okay. Gee, they're so well tucked in there.
The puff adder is particularly dangerous because it is widespread and can quickly bite in any direction.
At any moment, he'll try and slip those fangs out the side of his mouth down. Even sometimes I've seen them go through the bottom of their own jaw, trying to get to your fingers. Very, very active fangs.
Andrew takes the viper back to the lab to milk it. Puff adder venom is highly toxic. Only about 6/1000ths of an ounce is needed to kill a person. And an average bite contains twice that much. Although viper venom can be incredibly potent, it's useless if not delivered properly. That's where another evolutionary tool comes in: fangs.
There we go.
Viper fangs are unique among snakes. They're retractable, which allows the viper to protect them until the very last instant. Fangs are sharp, hollow tubes that have evolved over time, probably from ordinary teeth. A faint seam in the face of each fang suggests the teeth gradually enlarged and deepened, eventually forming a closed canal. But the most remarkable thing about a viper's fangs is that they can be individually manipulated.
They have a lot of muscles in the roof of the mouth, and the head is very, very flexible, which allows them to actually work those fangs in if they want to do that. And with those fangs being individual, they can control exactly how much venom they inject. They can use one fang, they can use both fangs, they can use none of them. They can even give you a dry bite.
The snake with the longest fangs in the world is the Gaboon viper. Measuring up to 2 inches, they can strike deep into a victim's vital organs to hasten its death. The Gaboon viper's spectacular fangs make it a valuable research specimen. Herpetologist Bruce Young is in Florida to measure viper fangs in order to study how they penetrate their prey.
If we know something about the length of the fang, it tells us where in the prey item the venom is likely to be injected, which will tell us a lot about how the venom will act.
This powerful 6-pound Gaboon viper can get stressed when handled and lash out in unpredictable ways.
And you just got to make sure the diameter of your tube is such that the snake can't turn its head around. That's a beautiful, beautiful snake.
In order to study the Gaboon viper's fangs, Young will need some backup. Rob Kesey, owner of an impressive array of snakes, has arranged for Bruce to Young male's fangs. He'll try to hold it down while Young takes the measurement.
I don't know how I'm going to get this one.
There you go. Got him?
I don't like this hold, but yeah.
Comfortable there?
Yep.
All right.
Just such a big snake, I have to hold around.
I want to just get a little bit of a look at the size of these fangs before we try taking a measurement. Look at that. Look at those beauties. Get a little bit of venom coming out. There we go. And if we... Oh, come on, don't do that. Don't do that.
Oh, wait. I got to let go.
Okay.
Watch your camera. Watch your camera. Get back.
Move.
Holy. Yeah.
Fang went right through and got
the
you.
bottom of the mouth.
Oh, it's bleeding pretty bad.
Within a few seconds, Robbie's finger starts to burn. A Gaboon viper's bite could kill a man in as little as an hour, and the nearest antivenom is 300 miles away.
Comfortable there?
Yep.
The moments immediately after a snake bite are the most anxious.
Wait. I got to let go. Camera, get back.
Move.
Holy.
But Robbie was holding the viper, so how did it bite him?
It came right through the bottom of the mouth.
Incredibly, the Gaboon viper has bitten through its own jaw muscles to get at Robbie's finger, holding it from below.
It's the problem with those longer fangs. Make the call. It's not worth messing with it.
Came right through the skin on this thing. I'm gonna give it 10 minutes. See what.
Gaboon viper venom is incredibly potent. Just a few drops can kill as many as 10 people.
Let's get the snake crate over here, would you, so we can get rid of this snake?
Gaboon vipers are not indigenous to North America, and there's no antivenom on hand. Emergency teams 300 miles away have been called, and helicopters are standing by to deliver the antivenom if it's needed. After 30 anxious minutes, there's still no swelling in the bite area, and Robbie's not feeling any symptoms. Maybe it's what herpetologists call a dry bite. After 26 years working with snakes, he still can say he's never been envenomated.
We're lucky in this case that Rob didn't appear to receive much venom at all. So we're just pretty fortunate.
Yeah, definitely. I had a slight burn right away. It's been about a half hour now, and I'm not getting any effects, so we're gonna try this again.
Same snake, but hopefully different results.
We're going from the tip of the fang to about the base.
Right about that distance, which puts us at 2.7 centimeters.
We're a little bit bigger
So a
than
little
that.
over an inch.
Yeah.
Not bad for a young specimen. A full-grown Gaboon viper's fangs can reach lengths of over 2 inches. The longer the fang, the deeper it can inject venom. Robbie was lucky. If the Gaboon viper's fangs had been longer, they might have been able to release venom into his finger, which could have been life-threatening. Bruce Means wasn't so fortunate. The rattlesnake that bit him launched itself at his hand, unsheathing its deadly fangs to deliver the venom. The mouth hinged open, revealing a gape of 110 degrees. The viper's needle-sharp fangs are the key to delivering a bite that penetrates deeply. When the snake reached Bruce's finger, huge muscles around the venom glands in its head squeezed the liquid through slits in its front fangs with tremendous pressure.
The rattlesnake, it was absolutely no fault of its own that it was protecting itself from this monster that was trying to jam its head in the sand with a stick.
A viper has some extremely sharp senses. When snakes evolved from underground, most scientists believe their eyes changed to adapt to their lighter surroundings. But the viper's vertical slit eye is still mainly used for nocturnal hunting. And the viper has many other features to help it efficiently track and acquire prey after the sun goes down. This viper, the Mexican West Coast rattlesnake, is on the hunt for a rat at night. And darkness is no obstacle. As the rat gets closer, the snake's sensing system takes over. The viper's forked tongue gathers chemicals in the air. And the Jacobson organ on the roof of the mouth processes the information for the brain, helping determine the distance and direction of its intended victim. A viper's tongue is just the first tool for tracking prey. When it's time to really hone in on a meal, the viper relies on a pair of heat pits at the front of its head. Vipers are all cold-blooded, and this evolutionary distinction works to its advantage when tracking warm-blooded prey. The highly evolved heat pits can detect differences around 5,000ths of a degree Fahrenheit. These heat pits essentially see the warm-blooded animals they typically eat, rodents and small birds. A viper's heat pits identify prey, but they also perform another critical function. As cold-blooded animals, snakes need to regulate their temperature to stay alive. In an effort to understand how they work, scientists cover up a viper's heat pits and place the snake in a very warm portion of a maze. Unable to use its thermal receptors, this handicapped snake has no idea which direction to go to cool off. A viper with its heat pits uncovered, however, senses the cooler temperature and easily navigates toward it. Without heat pits, this viper could get lost. But when it comes to hunting, vipers have another ace in the hole for surviving: their blindingly quick strike. In terms of acceleration, the viper is one of the fastest animals on Earth. Snake scientist Bruce Young is preparing an experiment to measure a viper's speed and precision.
There's some debate as to the extent that a snake can control its strike once it's in the air, whether the strike is essentially just a ballistic lunge or whether the snake has fine-tuned control.
Bruce specially engineered this 5-camera setup. It will measure snake strikes barely visible to the human eye.
We've got a very soft, movable target pad that we'll use. Since the target will be moving while the snake is striking, it should give us our best chance that the snake will actually modify or control its strike while it's in the air.
First up is the Western diamondback rattlesnake. A viper like the rattlesnake coils up to provide a stable platform for launching itself at prey. This viper can raise its head up to 20 inches off the ground. The rattlesnake completely misses the target at first, exposing its fangs against the cage glass, but quickly recoils and gets ready to strike again. When it does make contact, it hits the target at a mean speed of 172 centimeters per second. And the overhead high-speed camera does capture some minute mid-air adjustments. Over this distance, the strike in real time is 174 milliseconds, less than 0.2 of a second. Next up, the puff adder. The puff adder is virtually one huge muscle. Its strike zone, the distance at which it can bite a predator or prey, is 1/3 the length of its entire body. The power of the strike actually begins at the tail, building momentum as each segment of its skeletal system creates a muscular wave. The ripples of the body segments become more pronounced and accelerate as they get closer to the head. Next, powerful neck muscles tense and straighten, propelling the head toward the target. As the viper gets closer, the jaws open widely to allow the fangs to penetrate its target. After hitting the target, the puff adder quickly disengages and withdraws to a safe distance. The puff adder's strike is measured at a mean speed of nearly 289 centimeters per second and will reach its target in just 70 milliseconds. That's an acceleration of 84 meters per second squared, which is more than 10 times faster than the acceleration of a Ferrari. The viper can strike faster than most creatures can react. But there's an animal that doesn't seem to worry about a viper's deadly strike. A mammal that can turn the viper from ultimate predator into ultimate prey. Around the world, vipers are feared for their killing prowess and deadly bite. And while most animals have a healthy respect for these creatures, one mammal sees the viper as just another meal. The African honey badger is fierce and ruthless by nature, constantly scouring the bush for food. This tenacious weasel will hunt just about anything of any size. Its formidable reputation has made it infamous in South Africa, whose military calls its armored personnel carriers ruddles, the Afrikaans word for these ferocious animals. Honey badgers are always on the hunt for food, and snakes are often on the menu. In this rare footage, a honey badger seems to have found a midnight snack in a big, juicy puff adder. But just before the badger bites the viper's head off, the puff adder lands one final blow. The young male collapses with an apparently fatal wound. But just 2 hours later, he wakes up. It turns out the honey badger has developed a resistance to a puff adder's venom. And still hungry, he finishes his meal and saunters off into the bush. No one knows exactly how the honey badger can survive a puff adder's bite. Science has long been seeking to reproduce what the honey badger's immune system does naturally. Around the globe, some 5 million people are bitten by snakes every year. Bites that can disfigure and even kill. One country is on the front lines of snake-human conflict. India. Tens of thousands of people are bitten here every year. And one snake on the Indian subcontinent may kill more people than any other. The Russell's viper.
Russell's vipers have a nightmare of venom. They destroy your blood clotting factors, they destroy your capillaries, so you hemorrhage inside, they affect your kidneys, they destroy every bit of tissue that they get in touch with.
Jerry Martin is a snake expert. He is India's 911 for snakebite victims, whether from Russell's vipers or their more famous cousins.
There's a cobra.
Open to calls 24/7. He's often the first line of defense to advise on poisonous bites and help save lives. And ironically, the most effective way to treat a snakebite victim is with the snakes themselves. The Irula tribesmen in India are among the world's best snake catchers. They've been doing this dangerous work for generations. The Irula track, catch, and milk Russell's vipers, and India's other venomous snakes to create antivenom that helps save lives.
Kali?
Jerry is with the Irula today to learn their age-old techniques.
The Irula see signs that most of us don't ever get to see, but what I look for are just anything that doesn't quite fit. Something that looks like a vine but isn't really a vine, different textures, different shapes. So, and definitely movement.
Kali is one of the top Irula snake catchers. He's been bagging snakes since he was a young boy and knows the Russell's viper's habits.
One never expects that the snake's going to bite you the way we go looking for it. Sometimes the snake may bite you. If you go closer and trample it, it definitely will bite you. But one can adapt a way to catch it.
Kali and Kumar feel these rice fields could be a promising place to find Russell's vipers.
You always see rice fields in these little grids, and between these grids are these embankments. They're either grassy or they have cacti and dried thorn scrub on them, and that's perfect habitat for Russell's vipers. Russell's vipers are heavy-bodied snakes and they don't move very much, so they like to find a nice cozy place somewhere and wait for prey to come by them. So these embankments just form perfect habitat for them because they're filled with rats, birds coming through, and all a Russell's viper needs to do is sit in one place and order room service. Unfortunately, in India, everywhere there are people, there also are snakes, and people here work with their hands, they're barefoot, they get into the rice when they need to harvest it, even when they're planting it, they're there and they're working with their hands right next to snakes. And the problem with that is people get very close and often step on them or actually even grab them while they're picking up a bundle of hay or firewood and things like that, and they get bitten. It's just an absolute nightmare to live through, incredibly painful. So even if you don't die and people are saved, very often you lose a limb. And for a farmer in rural India, losing a limb is like being dead. There's thousands of people that get bitten every year and just as many die from Russell's vipers every year in India.
The Irula know this area is teeming with Russell's vipers, but that's no guarantee of success.
What we're going to do is actually go up onto that embankment back there. I don't know how we're going to get through that thicket though, but they seem confident.
The snake's camouflage is just one more reason they've survived this long.
Russell's vipers are ambush hunters. They don't move much. They're stout snakes, and they just coil up in a corner somewhere, anywhere on an embankment like this, inside a thicket, and wait for stuff to come by. So the problem with that is you very rarely see them out in the open. You usually see them just stuck inside or holed inside somewhere where they're not particularly visible. Some snake skin here. It's cobra skin. It's a venomous snake, but not one that we need. We're looking specifically for Russell's vipers here.
Kali's got a hunch that this spot in the woods could be a den site.
In this area, there will be a lot of snakes. And this is the season. Come and look. There will be snakes.
Kali keeps digging in one area. Suddenly, a Russell's viper literally jumps out of another part of the den site.
Kali just found a Russell's viper, the exact species we're looking for. Actually, let's take a closer look at this snake. It's actually very fortunate for us to find this snake. They're not easy to find.
Once apprehended, they bring the snakes back to this room. It's filled with hundreds of clay pots. In each pot, a different snake. It's a snake-phobic's worst nightmare. It's also a valuable collection of dozens of different types of venom. Venom the Irula collect to save lives. It's a vital component in the production of antivenom. the life-saving serum needed to treat bite victims. Antivenin is created by injecting a small amount of venom into a domesticated animal. The animal's immune response to the venom creates antibodies, which can then be used to counter the effects of snake bites in people. Creating an effective antivenin is an ever-evolving science. With hundreds of different vipers around the globe, ideally, victims should receive an exact antivenom match and get it quickly, or they may die. That's the dilemma facing Bruce Means. 40 minutes after being bitten by an eastern diamondback rattlesnake, he's lost control of his lower muscles. And the venom is close to paralyzing one of his most critical organs, his diaphragm, which will stop his breathing. His body is beginning its final breakdown. He's fighting for his life. His only hope is to make it to a hospital with a supply of the right antivenin. Nearly an hour after being bitten, Bruce lurches a mile down the road to find help. And he does. Barely. But by the time he arrives at a hospital, he'll need 26 units of antivenom to save his life. Bruce is extremely lucky to be alive. The bite easily could have killed him if he hadn't stayed focused and calm. Despite his close call, Bruce is still chasing down and studying these deadly creatures, constantly putting himself in the danger zone.
When you put a transmitter in the mouth and gently massage it into the stomach, I got my fingers awfully close to the working end, so I've learned to use a pair of forceps to manipulate this while I gently slide it in there a little ways, and she's feeling that. There is a bit of a danger even now for me working with these animals. I mean, I love them, I empathize with them, I understand them. And you know, familiarity in this case drops my guard. That's not good. I have to force myself now to remember that's a dangerous animal.
Bruce is fascinated with every aspect of the viper, live or dead.
And there the fangs are without all the tissue or soft tissue around it. Really, really beautiful.
But not everyone loves snakes the way Bruce does. In some parts of the American West, vipers have been targeted for persecution. And the vipers seem to be fighting back. For millions of years, vipers have been evolving to meet the challenges of their ever-changing environment. They've developed some interesting methods of protecting themselves. The Russell's viper inflates itself. The saw-scaled viper noisily scrapes its scales together to ward off predators. The rattlesnake shakes its tail to intimidate potential attackers. Traits slowly perfected, honed by evolution over the viper's 20 million years on Earth. One characteristic of certain vipers actually gives them their name. The word viper is derived from the Latin vivus, alive, and parere, to give birth, because typically vipers, unlike most other snakes and reptiles, aren't hatched from eggs. Instead, they emerge from their mother alive and squirming. After pregnancy, a female viper can give birth to as many as 150 live babies. It is just one of the many traits that are the secret to this creature's remarkable endurance. These infant rattlesnakes are primed to survive. Just seconds old, they already have their distinctive rattle and a bite that can kill. Rattlesnakes are unique among vipers, the only snake with this namesake appendage found at the tip of their tails. The rattle is composed of a series of hollow beads, which are actually modified scales from the tail tip. Each time the snake sheds its skin, a new rattle segment is added. But the rattle that for millennia has been used to ward off predators may now be putting the snake in danger.
If a rattlesnake rattles, it's really a way for a hunter to find them. And so you have a defensive behavior having really high costs to the snake itself. And so we expect that those high cost behaviors are going to be removed quickly from a population.
Snake researcher Corey Fincher believes noisier rattlesnakes are being killed at a higher rate, leaving quieter and more dangerous rattlesnakes to breed. In places where they come into contact with humans, viper evolution seems to be kicking into high gear. What once took millennia may now be happening in a few decades. Corey is putting his theory to the test on the outskirts of Alamogordo, New Mexico.
So I think what we can do is search along the wash here.
With him is biologist Bob Myers, who knows this area used to be teeming with rattlesnakes. But something strange is happening now.
So we just searched through an area that had everything that you'd expect to find. It looked like a den site for the rattlesnakes. But we didn't see any snakes.
Or maybe Corey just didn't hear any snakes.
Here's one right here.
There you go.
After several hours of searching, they finally found one.
What I'm going to do is use the tongs, move it toward the snake without touching it, and record the behaviors with a recorder here. You see, as I'm moving it towards it, he's not really reacting, tongue flicking, just remaining still, and not rattling. All right.
This is their first line of defense, is to remain quiet. But by now, he should feel threatened.
All right. So I'm going to touch it now. Start grabbing it. There you see tongue flicking. Starting to escape. Now he's just trying to escape.
After being pestered by Corey for several minutes, the snake finally rattles.
So that nice rattling. See, all he really wants to do is escape. This is exactly what we expect to see in areas where these snakes are hunted and they have significant interactions with humans. In the presence of a human, even though I was moving these tongs right next to it, it remained still and didn't rattle, didn't try to escape or move, relying on its color. And that's different than what we see in the unhunted areas. They would have already started biting, standing their ground, coiling, rather than what this snake is doing here.
Excessive hunting may be putting extraordinary evolutionary pressure on the rattler and inadvertently helping nature to select for a deadly new trait by creating a breed of rattlesnakes that doesn't rattle. Most scientists feel a major behavioral change like this could only evolve in thousands or millions of years, not just a few decades. Corey believes humans have sped up the process.
Humans are a predator on these guys, and predators change defensive behavior. And it's been done in a very short period of time.
Although less than a dozen snakebite deaths are reported each year in the U.S., rattlesnakes continue to be vilified for the dangers they pose to humans. And this has given people license to treat them in extreme ways. The American Southwest is home to an old and honored tradition: the annual Rattlesnake Roundup. The vipers are forced out of their dens, sometimes with gasoline, then collected for the upcoming festivities. At the largest of these events in Sweetwater, Texas, up to 20,000 rattlesnakes are displayed skinned, and gutted. A crowd favorite is a massive barbecue cook-off using rattlesnake meat. Humans have creatively used nearly every part of this viper and made it available for purchase. Products made from rattlers include lampshades, wallets, belt buckles, and paperweights.
Educate! Don't exterminate! Educate!
Humane societies have protested these events for years. Yet there is still no protection for these animals in many parts of the United States. But the consequences of man's interaction with vipers may ultimately be more devastating to us than to the snake. That's because modern science is now looking to viper venom to help treat some of man's deadliest diseases. So we need more of them, not less. A snake's poison has made a remarkable journey into a miraculous medicine. Medical researchers have discovered these natural toxins impact very specific targets within the body and cause few side effects. Some viper venom thins a patient's blood, which makes it an effective tool against stroke and blood clots. Other venoms target cells inside blood vessels and can collapse the pathways that feed cancerous tumors. A number of diseases such as arthritis, epilepsy, asthma, and even the effects of aging are currently being treated with venom-derived medicines. This 21st century alchemy has given hope to millions of people around the world who may have no idea how critical vipers are to their recovery. For 20 million years, the viper has thrived. But now, the viper's very existence is threatened. Man's relentless assault may be altering their evolution and creating new types of vipers, destined to survive.